are part of the natural world. We are intricately and integrally connected with nature. And so we need to look after nature because it's part of us and because it's this amazing calling that God has given us.
So you've written 6 books and dedicated a great deal of your life talking about creation care. What inspired you to get started and be passionate about it in the first place?
What inspired me was way back when I was at university reading theology. And someone lent me a little book that was just looking at what does the Bible say about environmental care. And I'd never read anything about that before. And that got me thinking and exploring more around what does the Christian faith have to do with caring for the wider world. So I realised, wow, if this is part of the Christian faith, then I've got to do something about it.
So really it's your faith is driving it, and is it the root of all that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, this is completely a faith-driven thing. Yes, there are people inside the Christian faith and outside the Christian faith who are interested in caring for this world. But for me, my motivation comes from what I see in the scriptures around this being a world that God has made and really loves. So for me, this is completely a part of my discipleship and part of my worshipping life.
So in your work, you often talk about the biblical call to care for the earth. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so I like to draw on 4 things from the scriptures that I think are really important. One is the really basic point that God is the creator, that God made this world and he absolutely loves it. Genesis 1:31 tells us that God looked at all that he'd made and said it's very good, it's fantastic. Sometimes in our Christian thinking, we get this sense that there's something not quite good about this world. You know, we're waiting to escape from it and go up into some floaty heaven. That is absolutely not what we get in the scriptures. We live in a world that has been created by the God we worship, and this world is loved by God. Colossians 1 tells us that this world was made by Jesus, through Jesus, for Jesus. And so if this world is so precious to Jesus, don't we then want to look after something that's so valuable? Secondly, we were created to take care of it. We've been made in God's image to tend and to take care and to look after this world. We're the final species, if you like, created in order to look after the rest of what God has made. But thirdly, the world has gone wrong because of us. You see, particularly in some of the words of the Hebrew prophets, that what we today call environmental degradation, the land goes wrong because the people aren't following God and they're not practicing social justice. And so the land mourns, the land weeps is some of the language that's used because of the sin of the people. So we have a responsibility to do something about it. But the good news is that we don't do that in our own strength. Colossians 1, again, very clear that Jesus' blood that was shed on the cross was shed on the cross in order to reconcile not only human beings, but to reconcile all things to God. It's going to be redeemed, restored, renewed, transformed. And so we live today as living parables of our future hope.
So if the Bible is so clear on this, shouldn't the church be at the forefront of action against climate change and creation care?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely beyond my realm of understanding as to why it's not, and why for some Christians it seems so hard to get to grips with it. If you're from an Anglican church, you will be saying every Sunday, I believe in God the Father, the maker of heaven and earth. But whatever church you're from, we worship the Lord of all creation. Every church should be engaged in some way or another in taking care of the natural world.
So why has the church been so slow with getting involved and getting on board with this?
I think there's a couple of theological things that have tripped us up. One is around what was called the eschatology side, that many of us have been brought up with Christian thinking that says this world's going to be destroyed and our destiny is up in heaven somewhere, and some songs and well-known hymns speak or sing into that. But I don't think that's what we've got in the scriptures. I think we have a vision of heaven and earth coming together, and that we will spend the rest of our days on a renewed, a transformed heaven and earth. Biblically, for me, it comes down to understanding our place as human beings and what it means to be Adam. Hebrew for ground is Adamah, and we are created as Adams. We're earth creatures. We're earthlings, not in some Star Trek-y type way, but we are dusty ones. So scripturally, you have this really close connection between human beings and the creation and the ground. Adam isn't a name. It's Adam is always the Adam. It's always a title. It's like a generic description. And it's only when Eve is created that Adam becomes a name and you drop the. So there's now so much scientific evidence that talks about the well-being that we experience when we are surrounded by plants, when we're out in the garden, when we're walking somewhere listening to bird song, and when we are in nature and involved with taking care of her and not harming her. We are part of the natural world. We are intricately and integrally connected with nature, and so we need to look after nature because it's part of us, and because of it's this amazing calling that God has given us, this amazing responsibility.
So is there anything else you would want people to know?
I think it is just for people to get a deeper understanding of how much God loves this world. We're used to talking about and thinking about how much God loves us. On the wall behind you, there's a tapestry that I did some years ago, and it took me quite a long time. You know, you can see it's really intricate.
It's very beautiful.
Thank you. And can you imagine how I would feel if I went out and came back one day and found that my daughters had taken that off the wall and put it on the floor and were wiping their muddy feet on it?
Oh dear.
I would be absolutely gutted that they would do something like that. I know that they won't do that. Why? Because they know that I love that tapestry, and they wouldn't dream of treating badly something that I love so much. And that's the kind of thing that I would love people watching this to understand and get a deeper glimpse of, just how much God loves this world.
In part 2, can we talk about how to turn these biblical principles into action?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Hi, thank you for watching this week's episode of From Dust. I'm Laura.
And I'm Andy Thomas. Big thanks to Ruth Valerio for helping us really think about what we all know is a super important issue in our world today. I really loved the part where she talked about just how much our Creator loves all of creation.
Yeah, and I think the tapestry illustration that she used really helped to just cement that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, massive thank you to our guest presenter, Hannah Fleming-Hill. You would not have known that they'd only just met each other that morning.
Chemistry was great. Thanks ever so much, Hannah.
But what do you think about these issues? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, this new From Dust project is not just about making films, it's also about trying to build community where we can ask questions, we can listen to one another, and we can discuss what kind of action we together need to take.
Absolutely. Now, you may not have heard of From Dust before. It is a brand new project. So if you'd like to know more about joining a group or starting one, then please do get in touch.
Yeah, we'd really love for you to get in touch, to connect with us, and help us build a new kind of Christian community.
That is it from us this week. We will see you next week for part 2.
Grace and peace.